we'd like to welcome you to a panel of seniors from the Schaumburg area. Some are from the Barn of Schaumburg, and we have visitors from Friendship Village with us today. And we meet monthly to discuss topics of the past that are of interest to all. I'd like to introduce our panel today. Jim?
I'm Jim Quigley. I live at Friendship Village, and in my working life, I was in the lumber business in the sales department and ended up owning a sawmill over in near Fort Wayne, Indiana. And then we retired 23 years ago, went down in Arkansas, and now we're back here where our kids and grandkids are.
Welcome to Schaumburg.
Thank you.
And Lo?
I'm Lo Ostrand. I also live at Friendship Village and have been there 3 years. Moved in when the new building was completed. I used to work for Illinois Bell and for AT&T. I was in the marketing department and in sales. So communications have always been very interesting to me.
You better believe it. Okay, and Bonnie?
I'm Bonnie Carlin. I'm a long-term resident of Schaumburg, about 31 years. And originally I was in advertising and marketing.
Well, we have common interest right over here, and I worked for the telephone company in my youth, so we have something in common. Today's panel is on communication, and communication is the process of exchanging information and ideas, and it allows others to interpret what we are saying and what we want to be our message. From the earliest times, we know that communication was very important. It probably started with grunts and body language and progressed to signals such as fires and drums and things of that sort. Then as language developed, it became more complicated as different languages sprung up and different dialects were brought about. Time has brought many innovations in communication, and what we saw in our youth, we certainly do not see today. Okay, ideas must work through the brains and the arms of good and brave men, or they are no better than dreams. That was Ralph Waldo Emerson that said it. So many of the innovations in communication come from that. And Samuel Morse, he was very emphatic in his first telephone message after many years of struggle. He said in his first message, "What hath God wrought?" What memories can you recall from your youth, and perhaps from what your mothers, fathers, and grandparents have told you? What was there that you could recall about the telegraph and telegrams? Do you remember any of those means of communication? Lo?
Well, I grew up on a farm in Iowa, and I don't recall that we got more than 1 or 2 telegrams, and when you got a telegram, you knew things were very serious because it was a form of communication that was urgent, but you don't get them very often.
And
so,
how were they delivered?
It was delivered by a mailman in a car that came. My uncle had been killed in an accident in Washington, D.C., and so they delivered a telegram to tell my mother that she had lost her brother, and that was one of the few telegrams that we ever got.
I think that many people held their breath when they saw the messenger, at the door. Do you have any memories of that?
Well, I remember, yes, during the war, that was one thing that you feared was the mail or the telegraph man would show up at your door with a bad message. But I also remember when I was starting in high school, this goes back in '42, we formed a swimming team at the high school. And due to gas rationing, where you got 5 gallons a week to drive your car, we would swim in our pool, and high school, maybe 30 miles away, would swim in their pool, and then they would send the results at 6 o'clock by telegraph. So then we would wait to receive it and look at the scores and compare times and decide who won the meet. So.
And that was very quick quick at that time. Bonnie, do you have any memories of the telegraph and messengers?
Oh, I do. I agree that it was a very serious or a very exciting moment when you did get a telegram. And I remember several times telegrams coming to our house. Also, I remember there was Morse code too at that time, where they used to telegraph messages, by code. I don't know if that was before the telegrams came into being or during, or
I think maybe the Morse code came and then it was interpreted and
As
printed up on strips of paper.
right,
Which
that
was
I
pasted
recall.
on
Right.
to a paper.
And you got the telegram, like you said, Lori, it was one sheet of paper, usually yellow, and then you saw the strips pasted on there, which would give you the message.
Right, that was Western Union.
Yes,
Remember
it
that?
Right, right.
And I remember in New York City, they used to ride around on bikes to deliver
Yes.
them, and that was a full-time job for many of the people that are there. The telegraph and the telephone are just, part of the large communication way. And along with both of those, we can have the telephone. Okay, do you have any fond memories of past communications with telephones, Lo?
One of my first memories of using a telephone was a wooden box on the wall with the hand crank, and I had a chair to stand on because I think I must have been 5 or 6 years old, and it was so exciting that I got to talk on the telephone. But of course, we had party lines. We had 8 people on the line, and when you would get a call, it was all by signals, a long and a short, or 2 shorts, or whatever it was. You pick up and you'd hear click, 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 click.
All the neighbors clicking. Do you remember that?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we were on a 4-party line. And but you really didn't use the phone except for an emergency. You didn't call your friends all the time and talk for an hour. That just
That is-
wasn't done.
That is
and
true.
so you had to go find them out in the street playing games or something. But
Right.
telephone was a, sort of an emergency type operation.
Not like today. And I can remember too with the telephone, that when you dialed the operator, you actually got a person that used to plug in, who you want. And they were the town's know-it-all. They knew who was sick, who was away from home, who was doing what. It was really just fascinating. How about you, Bonnie? Did you experience that?
I recall going to my grandmother's house. She had a phone, and there was no dial on the phone. There was like an earpiece and a hook. And when you picked it up, you had the operator dial for you. And you didn't have a series of numbers. You had a word and then some numbers. Now, I remember our phone number was Nevada 8 10419. We had one too many digits.
Oh,
And one time I went to school, and they had left early. The school was shutting down, and I wanted to call my parents because, they'd have to pick me up. So the operator wouldn't connect me. She kept telling me, no, there's no number like that. It has too many digits. I kept telling her, yes, there is, And after pleading with her, finally, she tried it, and doggone it, it worked.
it worked. Well, much has changed in our adult lifetime, and there's so much more that is going to happen in the future. New ideas come into this world, something like falling meteors with a flash and an explosion, and Henry David Thoreau uttered those magnificent words. We'll be back after a short break. Thank you.